House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are in crisis as they lose the support of their own caucuses. And we speak with two of the three foremost riot reporters on the ground in Chicago. I'm Tony Kinnett, host of the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Friday, October 17th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Amid the shutdown, Democrat leadership in Congress is going through a rather rough time. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has been humiliated multiple times in the last couple of days, not by his own statements, but by the reactions of their own parties. Here's Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont on a CNN town hall.
But are you saying that Senator Schumer should not be worried about a primary challenge from you?
All right.
No.
Let me jump in on this one. This is what we're
talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is what we're talking about.
You have a country that is falling apart. We had a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, an education crisis, massive income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, and the media says, "Oh, you're going to run. What are you going to run for?" Nobody cares. She'll run more towards
Nobody cares. It's the House Speaker and President Trump and the Vice President saying it.
Right.
Pardon?
Well, of course, they're saying it to deflect attention away from the real issue.
Exactly.
And here, let me tell you what the real issue is. Let's see if CNN talks about it. We're living in the richest country in the history of the world, right? All right, you tell me why we're the only nation not to guarantee health care to all people, the only nation not to guarantee paid family and medical leave, why we have a $7.25 an hour minimum wage, why we have 800,000 people sleeping out on the street, why we have a president who denies the reality of climate change, why we have oligarchs on top who have more and more power every day. Let's talk about that issue, not her own political future.
We sat down with Daily Signal President Rob Bluey to discuss a new poll showing a major nightmare for the House Minority Leader. I have no idea how Western and upstate New Yorkers deal with the rest of the state's shenanigans. AOC and Bernie last night on CNN, the town hall was I made the joke this morning. It was like watching the Harlem Globetrotters lose to the Washington Generals. That was how it should have been a slam dunk for them. It was terrible. They freaked out over a question about Chuck Schumer being primaried by AOC. How are New Yorkers taking that whole possible Senate primary situation? Because that's obviously a bigger swath of the state, the entire state.
Well, my limited interactions that I had with individuals and talking to people on the ground in upstate New York, both the Utica area and Rochester, is that there's dissatisfaction with Chuck Schumer. They are strongly in favor, I think, of term limits and putting an end to Chuck Schumer's time. He spent most of his career, obviously, serving in Congress, first in the House and then in the Senate, and now as the Democrat leader. So deep dissatisfaction with his leadership, I think, particularly over this government shutdown, which a lot of people just don't understand what the Schumer strategy is here. It doesn't make any sense. Not
There's
only
a strategy,
maybe not, but I'd say the second thing is, they're just focused on issues that are completely misaligned with where the voters, at least in upstate New York, are. For instance, I was talking to a friend who, is no huge fan of President Trump, who was saying that if cities like Rochester and Syracuse, were a little bit larger, they'd be candidates to get the National Guard, given some of the crime issues that they're experiencing. And those are those issues that I think the bread and butter issues that Donald Trump tapped into in the 2024 election that voters care about. The Democrats, even to this day, are ignoring. And so when you hear somebody like a Hakeem Jeffries or a Chuck Schumer, both of whom are from New York, talk about why they're in politics today, and that sole reason seems to be to oppose Donald Trump, I think it falls flat with a lot of voters.
I'll tell you what never falls flat with voters, since you mentioned Hakeem Jeffries, dropping fat beats and good rhymes. And Hakeem Jeffries' latest strategy, I guess we're calling it, is to get out, a couple of limericks.
House Republicans shut the government down. Then they ran out of town. And for the last 3 weeks, they're nowhere to be found.
It's really weird to watch him try to speak at all. It's like William Shatner on muscle relaxers. But anyway, aside from the jokes, Hakeem is, according to a new Axios article, and I had to check this, it's by Andrew Solender, their Congress guy. Axios surveyed Democrats running for House across the country. 113 replied. 31 said they would definitely or likely vote for Jeffries as speaker or leader. I didn't realize that's definitely or likely, just 31. 57 were non-committal. 25 said no or likely no. Oh my gosh, that's talking about a crisis in leadership.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he has completely disappointed not only the base, but I think even some of the moderates in his own party. And you played the great clip on this morning's Top News in 10 for the Daily Signal from Harry Enton at CNN, talking about how the Democrats should be in a very strong position today. If you look historically where the incumbent party is and the generic ballot, and the Democrats are just struggling to connect. And I think you put the blame squarely on the two most prominent leaders in the party right now. That is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. And Hakeem Jeffries, particularly in the House, if he can't even get the candidates who are running for the House of Representatives to back him, he's in trouble.
And we all know how petty the DNC is. Ken Martin has no leadership whatsoever. Essentially, you've got Ken Martin trying to do backseat driving. Obama's panicking on podcasts. AOC and Bernie Sanders are flapping their hands like Gavin Newsom with too much coffee on national television. And amid all of this, I'm very smug because I remember when guys like Nate Silver, pretty good pollster, was out saying, wow, things are looking really good for the Democrats. And I may have been, you may have been in an interview on this show, one of the ones to say, hey, they're only up in the generic ballot by like 1 or 2 points. The opposition party in the first year of an administration is supposed to be up 10, 12, 15 points. They are in crisis mode. And then you bring in the redistricting efforts. I mean, you don't even need Ketanji Brown Jackson to call all black people disabled for this to be a communications and political crisis for the Democrats. What do we expect out of that SCOTUS ruling? Have you heard anything kind of on the ground in D.C.?
Well, certainly it looks favorable that the Voting Rights Act will see some major changes, which could probably yield Republicans even more seats in Congress ahead of the 2026 midterms. And so, yes, I do think that ultimately it's hard to predict any Supreme Court case, but based on the line of questioning, certainly did not go well for those who were advocating for its continuation. I will say this point about a lot can change over the course of the next year. I think it's ultimately going to come down to how people view their personal finances. And again, some of those issues that we know Donald Trump did a much more effective job of running against Kamala Harris on in 2024. It's going to be incumbent upon Republicans to make the case that the policies they've enacted under Trump are going to yield better results than what they experienced under Democrats. And I think if they're able to do that, they'll be in a strong position to make an argument that they should retain the power that they have today.
And speaking of immigration judicial fights, the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois encompassing it, as well as several other blue cities around the country are still attempting to encourage civil unrest and endorse official acts against the administration's immigration policies. Much of this civil unrest turns into rioting, in which case vehicles are slammed into law enforcement officers, rocks are thrown at the heads of law enforcement, and other acts of domestic terrorism take place. We got a chance to talk to Julio Rosas of The Blaze and Nick Sordor, who was just assaulted in Portland and arrested for it, to describe what reporting is like on the ground in these. Julio Rosas of The Blaze and Nick Sordor, he of the number one public enemy in Portland variety. Gentlemen, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Tony. Appreciate you having me.
So let's dig right into the specifics of the current ICE operational details here. I know there's a lot of movement on the ground with protesters appearing to use vehicles in order to kind of stall ICE agents or Border Patrol agents, and then these crowds show up right after. You guys track a lot of the crowd movement. How coordinated are the traffic kind of accident situations to these instantaneous protest groups descending on them?
Well, it just depends because, it depends on the city, right? I mean, Chicago has proven itself to be very confrontational. They make no qualms about that. I mean, they're just certainly not afraid of Chicago police in general. So naturally that was going to translate over to DHS. That is something similar that we've seen in Los Angeles as well, with using cars and getting people as quickly as they can to an operation. So they're learning from each other, and I think Nick, he'll certainly, he's seen some of that where they take cues from what works in places like Portland or New York, or Boston even kind of popped off the other day. So this is it. It's just a continuation of what we've seen, and it's because that they see that deportations are not stopping, so naturally they're going to escalate their tactics.
And join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern for a roundup of the day's news and nonsense on the Tony Kinnett Cast. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Take care.